Hello, everybody. Tracy Mrs. JDog Flanagan with you here today. I'm the co-founder and senior vice president at JDog Brands. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Tactical Treasures Podcast, powered by JDog and Vet TV. Our podcast gives veterans, mil spouses, active military members, and military family members a voice in the veteran space to speak about their service, how they're affecting their communities post-service, and they share with me a tactical treasure that has helped them in their journey in their military career, business, or life. Today, I'm very excited to have with me today Susan Maly. Susan Maly served in the U.S. Air Force for 6 years, first as an operations officer where she led airmen in a wartime location, and then as a speechwriter for the 4-star general overseeing Air Force logistics. Susan also graduated from the United States Air Force Academy with a bachelor's in chemistry and a minor in German, and she earned her master's in public policy from Harvard University. Post-service, Susan spent over a decade with a large Fortune 500 technology and management consulting firm, where she served as a strategy executive and held leadership roles across its government and commercial businesses, as well as corporate headquarters. Now, Susan is the proud founder and CEO of Maly Strategies, where she helps small technology and professional service businesses scale and grow by providing strategy, operations, and coaching services, and focusing on transforming ideas into impact. Hello, Susan. Thank you for joining me today. I'm excited to speak with you. Thank you for your service, ma'am.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you for the kind introduction and also for having me here today and for everything that you do for the veteran community.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we love it. We're passionate here about our veterans and military families here at JDog. So what an exciting career you've had as an airman. Speechwriter for 4-star general. I love it. Could you talk to us about your military career? What led you to join the Air Force? And how was your time in service?
Well, I grew up in a military family. My grandfather served in World War II, and my dad was teaching at West Point when I was born. So he served in the Army. My brother attended West Point. So it's something that I always knew about and something that I wanted to do to serve the country. Often people will ask me, did I feel like I had to go into military service? And no, it's something that I saw my family model and I wanted to carry forward. So I had an incredible opportunity to attend the Air Force Academy, to serve on active duty for 6 years. So it was a great short 6 years. I knew that was about the time that I wanted to serve and then go into business, but I'm very thankful that I did.
Yeah, that's great. What an amazing family legacy of your family service. That's really awesome. Is there a particular aspect or moment from your time in the Air Force that stands out or was particularly impactful for you?
Gosh, there are so many.
I'm sure.
I think I can maybe distill to two. So I really loved leading airmen kind of on the front lines, if you will, deployed to Iraq. So it's something that is very meaningful to me, and I'm thankful that I was able to do that and just kind of get to know people from all over the country and hear their stories and see how they passionately served in the Air Force. That's something that I will carry with me always and just have an incredible appreciation for.
Wow.
You mentioned the speech writing. So that was an opportunity where someone came to me and said, do you want to be a speech writer? And I thought, well, I've never written a speech in my entire life, but I'm happy to try. And so I wrote a sample speech and was selected for that. And that was really fascinating because as a young captain, I was introduced to the corporate side of the Air Force, and I had a lot of exposure to how senior leaders were making decisions and how communications really informed strategy. And so I think that was very pivotal in my career, just to kind of be a fly on the wall in many conversations and just learn. And it was a lesson for me to try new things, continue to say yes, even if I don't feel quite as prepared, and to just scramble as fast as I can to catch up and to learn something new and be willing to try something new.
Yeah, that's really amazing. What an awesome career you've had.
Thank you.
Could you talk to us about your experience transitioning out of the Air Force? Now, you served for 6 years. What was that like for you? Did you have a thought process of what you wanted to do, or was it kind of murky getting out?
The transition out of the military is very difficult. Yeah. And when you attend a service academy, you incur a 5-year commitment. So I knew that I was going to serve on active duty for 5 years. And then I accepted the speechwriter position. And so then I incurred that extra year, and it was fantastic. But that was 2009, and we had just had the global financial crisis. So I remember when I told my family and I told my commanding officers, I think I'm going to separate. And they looked at me and said, are you crazy? Is this really what you want to do? But I knew that I really wanted to pursue a business career. So it was a very interesting, but also stressful last year, because I had the speech writing job, which I very much enjoyed, but was intense. And then I felt like when I came home from work, I had a second job, because I was trying to understand what life was like outside the military and explore different career options, and read a lot of books. I think one had 700 jobs in there, and I was like, I don't want to do any of these.
Oh, no.
So it was really a blessing that I met someone who worked for the large management and technology consulting firm that I was with for 11 years. And really it was networking, and that job was not in the book. I would not have known about it had I not had that discussion. And so I'm just thankful that the opportunity arose, because consulting was a very good fit and still is a good fit for the kind of work I like to do.
Right, right. So now you're the founder and CEO of Maly Strategies. How did, could you talk to us about your business, but how did that come about from the technology firm that you were with?
Yes. So I started to get the seeds of the idea to start my business in about 2015. Fast forward 5 years, I started it in 2020. So there was a lot of time kind of preparing and seeing if this was the path that I wanted to take. But in one of my positions at the management consulting firm, I was essentially helping to launch new small businesses. And I was part of a very small team in the commercial business within this company. At that point, it was about 150 or so people. And I had come from the military, which is just extremely large. And then I had done government work with this company. And then when I was doing this really fast-paced commercial work, I thought, I really like this. And then over time, I thought, I think I could do this by myself. And so I said, well, what does that even look like? So I started going to women business center trainings, understanding what does it mean to even set up a business, listening to podcasts. I had just had my first child in 2015, and I wasn't ready with all of that change to then make another transition. Then I had my second child shortly after that. So I really used the time when I wasn't doing the kind of the new parent thing to listen to podcasts and to read and to learn as much as I could before I made that leap.
Wow. Wow, that's great. And you started in 2020.
I know.
COVID. Oh my gosh.
I know. So yeah. So my family will often tease me that I transitioned from the military during a global financial crisis, and then I transitioned from big business to small business during a pandemic. In 2019, my husband had an opportunity to move to the Netherlands for his work. And we looked at, what does this look like for our family? Could I continue my job overseas? There were some initial discussions, but I really saw that as a launching point. I'd always wanted to start my own business. So I actually incorporated while we were overseas. I started the work while we were there, and then I brought the business back with me when we moved back in 2021. So it was really a blessing, because it was something that I could do while my kids were home and I was homeschooling, and just kind of ease into it. It was just kind of a couple hours here and there, and then I was able to kind of scale it once they went back to school.
Wow. Very, very strategic. I love it. Hello, viewers and listeners. Are you a military veteran or military family member and looking to own your own business? If so, go to JDog.com and check out our 2 veteran-focused franchises, JDog Junk Removal and Hauling and JDog Carpet Cleaning and Floor Care. Our franchisees nationwide are always looking to hire fellow veterans and patriots. JDog is the world's largest military franchise system with hundreds of locations nationwide. We are nearly 90% veteran-owned, with the goal of reducing the veteran unemployment rate to under 1%. Check us out. Go to jdog.com to learn more. Now, back to the podcast. So what are some of the different services that you offer at Maly Strategies?
So I break them into 3 areas. Really, my main focus is around strategic planning or strategy development. I can do it across all sides of businesses, but I really like small technology and professional services businesses, because I feel like I can see the impact of that. So people will say, well, what is a professional service business? It can look anything like another consulting company. It can be insurance. It can be accounting. It can be a marketing business. And then the technology is usually some kind of, it can be software as a service, but there is a technology component that is enabling that professional services business. And one of the things that I did during my corporate career was largely focused around cybersecurity. So a lot of kind of the technology stuff has been around cyber, and that is just something that I'm interested in.
Wow, oh, that's really neat. So I understand you have a weekly newsletter too. Could you talk to us about that and some of the topics that are covered in it?
Sure. Yes. So it's called Strategy Made Simple. And I purposely call it that. And I try to write about strategy in a way that is very accessible, because I feel like when I tell people I do strategy, they're like, okay, well, what does that really mean? And it means a lot of, especially coming from the military, whether it's strategic or tactical or operational. So it was around November of last year. And I thought, I think I'd like to write an article. So when I was on LinkedIn, I saw this button for newsletter, and I thought, well, maybe I could write a newsletter. So kind of the theme of trying things and kind of seeing how they work out. So each week I'll pick a topic, and oftentimes I'm inspired by just different aspects of life. Like one example from kind of right before school got out earlier this summer, my daughter, I went in and did a career fair, and I was thinking, well, how am I going to explain business to, young children? So I talked about a lemonade stand and, how are we going to market it, and where are we going to get our supplies, and what are we going to price it at, and, who are we going to hire? So that was something that I kind of tried to use as an analogy. But, if I am reading a book and I see something on leadership or how people are aligned around a common goal, a lot of times I'll use sports analogies. Just to kind of draw that through line of, this is how you can set that vision for your team, create the strategy around that. And that's kind of high level, 50,000 foot. But then what does that look like for your tactical 90-day plan? What are you actually going to do over the next 3 months? And so that's a lot of what I try to work with clients on, is taking that big vision, first defining what they want, what success looks like. Right. Are you growing your company to scale it? Do you want to be a lifestyle company? Do you want to sell it? Do you want to hire a team? Do you want to be a solopreneur? Kind of working with them through those questions, and then helping create a tactical plan for them to implement it and achieve their goals.
Yeah, that's great. I like Strategy Made Simple. Yeah, I like the different analogies that you talked about using, because sometimes, that overreaching strategy talk can be really in the weeds. And sometimes if you just break it down to something simple like sports analogy or lemonade stand, or it really does make sense. So how can people get in contact with you, sign up for your services, sign up for the newsletter?
You can reach me on LinkedIn. It's Susan Maly, but it's spelled Maly, but pronounced Maly. I also have a website. It's malystrategies.com. And you can sign up for the newsletter on either of those sites. And you can just send me an email. Even if you're not quite sure if the services are the right fit, I'm happy to have a conversation and say, this could work. And if it's not the right fit, I have a strong network of other entrepreneurs, and I can say, this sounds more like it might be sales or marketing, or you might need a graphic designer, and then I can help connect people within that network.
Wow, that's great. I did happen to visit your website, and I did see that there was a little button that said, let's chat and see if we're a good fit.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really, it was very, I really liked how the website looked. It was very easy to navigate and understand everything that you're doing there. It was really lovely. Hello, viewers and listeners. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Tactical Treasures Podcast. We are currently having a wonderful conversation with Susan Maly, who served in the United States Air Force for 6 years, first as an operations officer, where she led airmen in a wartime location, and then as a speechwriter for the 4-star general overseeing Air Force logistics. She is now the founder and CEO of Maly Strategies. Maly Strategies delivers complex strategy, operations, and coaching services to help small and medium-sized businesses and nonprofits scale and grow, and to transform ideas into impact. Maly Strategies carries forward the legacy and values of Air Force service: integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all they do to provide clients with high-level consulting services. To find out more and to begin taking your business to the next level, you can head to malystrategies.com, and I'll spell that for you. MALYSTRATEGIES.com. There you can get in contact with Susan as well as sign up for the weekly newsletter, Strategy Made Simple. Now back to the podcast. So let's dive into your tactical treasure, what we'd like to share with us today.
I spent quite a bit of time thinking about this and listening to some of your other guests, just kind of curious what they were sharing as well. And for me, I think it's, sometimes you just have to take the leap and do it scared. And that is something that I internalized when I was at jump school. So at the Air Force Academy, they have a program where you train with upperclassmen at the Air Force Academy, and then you jump out of an airplane by yourself. So you're not doing it tandem. You are not doing it kind of connected to anything for it to pull your line, if you will, static line. You're free falling. And it's something that, you're very much preparing for. So as I say that, I also caveat it that for me, I don't just, I hope or feel irresponsibly take those risks. But what I really ground it in what I call the 3 Ps: prayer, preparation, and persistence. So for me, my faith is the foundation of my identity and how I strive to run my business and who I am. We all have shortfalls, so that does not mean that I'm perfect. But, if I have a new opportunity or something that I want to pursue, the first thing I'll do is pray about it and say, is this the right fit? Is the right fit for our family, for this time of our lives? And then the second aspect, if the answer is yes, is preparation. So when I looked at, do I want to start my business in 2015, I spent a long time preparing. It doesn't mean that you have to spend 5 years, but just with the timeline and having young children, it was the right fit. But it's, how can I best prepare for this new opportunity so that if something does come, I'm ready to step forward into it. And that last area is persistence. And so joining the military, joining corporate America, leaving the military, creating a small business, all of these things are awesome and exciting, but they're hard. And so it's a journey every day. I've been in business for 3 years and I love it. I wouldn't trade anything. But that's also a learning curve. And so it's just persisting through, before I created a newsletter, I didn't know how to do a newsletter. I had speech writing background, but there's also some technology behind it that you have to learn. And so I just try to keep that learning mentality and always being willing to try that next thing.
Yeah. You know what? That is an awesome treasure. And doing it scared, I've heard that said before. Joyce Myers does an incredible podcast on fear. And, well, if you're going to be afraid, why don't you just do it scared? Right?
Yes. I've read several of her books and I would be interested in listening. And, I also, doesn't mean that I don't feel fear.
Sure.
But I also believe in a God that, says, I'm with you, I'm for you.
Right.
And that he's not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and courage and sound mind. And that's how I kind of get to that next step.
Yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly. True. That's a very special treasure, and I love it. Great words of wisdom.
Thank you.
So I'm wondering, would that be your advice for your fellow veterans who are struggling post-service, perhaps trying to define what their own success may look like after getting out of the military?
Yeah, I mean, that is hard. And I think that, one thing that someone that I hold very dear to me said, that I didn't have to get it perfect. And, I could get out. And if I didn't like it after I gathered some data, I could try something new. So I kept trying to find the perfect job or the perfect this or the perfect that. And there's trade-offs in everything. And I'm very thankful and I'm very blessed that I landed in a place that I do feel was a very good fit. But you have to let yourself try something and see if it is something that you want to do, because you can read about it as much as you want. But at least for me, until I actually do it, I'm not going to know if it is that good fit. So that would be kind of one thing to keep in mind, and also just be encouraged that your skill sets are transferable. I think it's learning a new language or a different way to speak about them.
Sure.
If you are coming from the military and transitioning to corporate America, if you're leading large teams, they need people who can do that. They need people with discipline who can show up on time and set a structure and follow through and follow up. So a lot of the skills that we learn in the military are very transferable into the civilian world. It's just learning how to talk about them in a way that will translate.
Yeah. That's great advice. I totally agree. So before you go, how can people find and connect with you? And where can they find out more information about Maly Strategies?
So the best place is LinkedIn. It's Susan Maly on LinkedIn, and then my website, malystrategies.com.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing everything. And I'm so happy about your new business and that you're doing well and just forging ahead and persisting through those times. And I love your tactical treasure and your advice. I totally agree. Prayer, preparation, and persistence.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's a lot of what we do in life, right? Truly.
Right.
So thank you so much for joining us today. This has been an awesome conversation with you. And I wish you much success.
You as well.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Hello, viewers and listeners. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Tactical Treasures Podcast. We just finished up an amazing conversation with Susan Maly, who served in the U.S. Air Force for 6 years, first as an operations officer, where she led airmen in a wartime location, and then as a speechwriter for the 4-star general overseeing Air Force logistics. She is now the founder and CEO of Maly Strategies, which delivers complex strategy, operations, and coaching services to help small and medium-sized businesses and nonprofits scale and grow, and to transform ideas into impact. Maly Strategies carries forward the legacy and values of Air Force service: integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all they do, to provide clients with high-level consulting service. To find out more and to begin taking your business to the next level, you can head to Maly, and I'll spell that, MALY, strategies.com. There you can get in touch with Susan, as well as sign up for the weekly newsletter, Strategy Made Simple. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Tactical Treasures Podcast. And don't forget, you can find us on all your favorite podcast streaming platforms, as well as Vet TV. We are now airing on Reese Across America Radio on Thursdays at 7 p.m. And if you miss it, be sure to join us for the encore airing Saturdays at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can also find Reese Across America Radio on the iHeart Radio app, the Odyssey app, and the TuneIn app. Again, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on another podcast. Bye-bye now.